Blackpool is the leisure capital of what was once the industrial north. It was built on work and wages. But something about work has changed, something the politicians don't really acknowledge.
You're up, you'll get down. You're never running from this town. And I think you said...
Wages in Blackpool have fallen by about £2,500 over the last 5 years, and where I'm standing is one of the poorest wards in the country. So this is the bottom of the UK labour market. The question is, where do you go if you want to go up?
Future technology.
Ben, who's gone through the care system to university, is about to find out.
I actually don't know a lot of people that do work. I know people that work, but I wouldn't say that they're comfortable working for what they're getting paid.
Do you think you get work in Blackpool?
Probably not.
In Blackpool, the secure, well-paid jobs are in the public sector, often looking after people who've lived through the collapse of private sector wages and employment. If you were to sum up what has changed from the generation of your grandparents and your parents, in work-wise, and now, what is it?
Technology.
Why?
It's all online. You know, you don't really need an assistant or a personal advisor in a hair salon anymore. You can just call up and say, oh...
It feels to you that technology is eating away at the kind of jobs that you and your friends would have traditionally done?
Possibly, yeah.
Economists call it hollowing out, middle-income jobs being replaced by machine. But there's a limit to automation, and to see it, I've come to Preston, still a manufacturing town. At Plums, they upholster and repair furniture. The fabric's cut by computer-controlled machines, but everything else needs skill. The workforce looks small compared to the cotton weavers who once filled this space, but there are still a lot of hands at work here. When an economist looks at a place like this, what they see is a 200-year story of automation versus skill. Anybody who thinks that story's over is wrong, but it is changing. An influential recent study found that in the next 20 years, 47% of all jobs in a developed economy are at risk of being replaced by machines. Furniture-making jobs, it said, had an 87% chance of being automated.
So, I'm just going to place the tap there.
But at Plums, they've trained a whole new generation of apprentices, and they're confident they'll be here for decades. So why? People watching this might say, hold on a minute, why have you spent 5 years learning to do a manual task that might be, you know, that maybe a robot will do in 5 years' time?
I mean, I'm waiting to see a robot be developed to do such different and intricate, you know, tasks. I mean, all of them are, you know, like for example, right here, you know, would a robot be able to make that cut there?
What can you realistically earn in a place like this? What do the high earning people
earn? The high earners earn close to £16-17 an hour, so it is big money. But you got to work for it. It's not given to you. You've got to knuckle down and you got to put in the work for it.
£17 an hour is 35k, putting you in the top 20% of earners. Work has returned to mills like this, partly because Chinese wages are rising and partly because there's no incentive to invest in more complex levels of automation. But the story of Plums does show, even in an era of globalisation, high-wage manual work is possible. In this election, politicians have taken to appearing in high-vis jackets, and workplaces have become like stage sets in the campaign. But what goes on at work is often surrounded by silence, and for many, work has become a place of massive power imbalance. Chris and Stuart used to work for a rail contractor on Clydeside, maintaining the track. Both are happy with their current work, but they've seen in previous jobs what 0 hours can mean.
You could be told you've got a shift, and then it could phone you up 2 hours later and turn and say, well, that shift's been cancelled. And you know it's not. And that's how these companies they can bully you.
In their old jobs, they could be given 1 shift a week or 13 shifts in a row. The families living on wages that were impossible to predict.
Why should people go out to work and have to go to a food bank. Why should people have to choose between an adult having something to eat or their kids?
But then the employment figures are still looking good as far as, you know, the government's concerned.
That's Great Britain for you, yeah?
For many among the young, the solution to lack of power in the workplace is to go solo, to set up small businesses, like in this pop-up food market in London. But it all begs a bigger question. If in the next 20 years we're facing a whole new wave of automation, the real question we should be asking is, where do we find jobs for all these people? Above all, jobs with high levels of skill, pay, and autonomy. When factory work was the norm, politicians were obsessed with raising the quality of our lives at work. Somewhere along the line, that has disappeared.